The Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Monday. Glad to have you along. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and we're going to get your new week started off right. Looking forward to having Don Fischer join us on the program today, as well as Greg Rakestraw here in this first hour, as Indiana with a big-time upset of Purdue over the weekend to keep their NCAA hopes alive on the 40th anniversary of Bob Knight throwing the chair, no less. And Mike Woodson was sitting on the throne, so to speak. So it seemed to bring some magic as the Hoosiers, behind a trio of Hoosier seniors, were able to get that job done. Not just those guys, but it was a complete team effort in a day that Indiana used different lineups and played defense like their hair was on fire, especially Anthony Leal and Miles Rice. They shut Braden Smith down, and the interior post players kept Trey Kaufman and Wren shut down. They could not handle Indiana's size. Caleb First could not. He had 4 personal fouls. Trey Kaufman Wren fouled out of the game, but plenty to talk about on this weekend, as well as the Indiana High School Boys Tournament. Selection Sunday happened yesterday, so we'll talk about that with Greg Rakestraw when he pops along as well. And the Pacers, they won again, so lots of good things to talk about. Grateful to have you guys along for the ride, as well as always. And as I mentioned, our friend Greg Rakestraw jumping on to join us here as soon as I can get him in the right box. There we go, Greg. How are you, brother?
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Cannot complain. I know it was a big Sunday for IHSAA boys basketball tournament as the pairings were announced, and I was gazing through those. The only thing I noticed was, of course, I went straight to the South, and I see that there will be a good possibility of having a New Albany Jeffersonville championship in that sectional, which that's how it should always be. We've talked, and I know I've had great, well, I don't mean just that sectional. I mean all of them. We've had this conversation with Kyle Neddenrip a lot about seeding and how, they should always do that instead of having the 2 top teams playing, at the beginning sometimes, which happens. But I'm sure that is the case on some other sectionals. I haven't had a chance to look at them all just yet, but the draw is there, and what are we, 2 weeks away?
We are 8 days away, so it starts a week from tomorrow on March 4th. And for the most part, we avoided having 2 heavyweights play each other the opening night, with one significant exception, and that would be Fisher's and Westfield in Sectional 8. Again, Fisher's the defending champs. Fisher's unbeaten. Fisher's a team that has basically only played 4 single-digit margin of victory games so far this year. One of them was to Westfield. That was a couple of weeks ago, February the 6th. Westfield led that game by double digits at one point in time. Fisher's came from behind, ended up pulling a 3-point win in that contest. So this is number 1 versus, I think Westfield is 3rd in the latest polls. So 1 versus 3 play each other the opening night. Other than that, most sectionals are set up where the best 2 teams will not see each other until a potential championship game.
And I think that is spectacular that it worked out that way, because it's better for the fans. It's better for attendance. It's better for Indiana high school basketball. I think it's just better all the way around.
I understand that, and I get it too. And so, there are years when we get kind of carnage in the first round, and there are years where it kind of works itself out in terms of playing each other. As a lot of these 4A sectionals shrink down to 4 and 5 team sectionals because of the fact that, we have fewer teams in 4A now. That changed from the IHSAA. It's the top 20%, not top 25% that constitute the 4A bracket. Frankly, in those 4 and 5 team sections, I think there is less of a need to seed because, there are sometimes you're going to play each other in the semifinals on Friday night regardless. So this is a year where, again, I don't think there's going to be this huge call for seeding because, again, we've kind of got the one exception to that scenario.
Yeah, well, looking forward to that. And someone just made a comment that has nothing to do with basketball per se or sports in general. But I did happen to see this. And he said, has anyone seen or heard about the 33 rural Illinois counties that want to leave Illinois and join Indiana? And I'm like, man, what would that do to sports and the tournament and stuff and things like that? I mean, just make it even crazier. But I saw that and I'm like, this is not 1898. What the heck's going on, man? I just couldn't believe that, but I just kind of laughed. But that would be odd. But yeah, that's a strange one. That's I'd see more likelihood of teams leaving conferences like Bloomington North. They're switching conferences again. I know that they used to belong to the Hoosier Hills Conference back in my day. I played Bloomington North and then they left and now they're going to yet another conference. We've had a few conference shakeups here in the last few years, but not a lot.
Well, I mean, it follows college athletic, which is crazy. It literally trickles down to the high school level that teams kind of start looking around. And so the first two dominoes that fell about 4 years ago were Carmel and Center Grove exiting the MIC, being asked to leave the MIC, depending on, who all you want to ask. And so
is that kind of like
those guys being
retiring or being retired?
Exactly. Those guys are now independents, and that kind of started a domino effect that has, the upheaval now largely is in the 2A, 3A level. The move that you are talking about. So Greenwood finally, after being the smallest school in the mid-state for so many years, and they have been in the mid-state for more than 80 years, they finally say, all right, enough, as Franklin, Whiteland around us grow exponentially, as Perrin Meridian has joined the league, as Decatur Central is on the verge of becoming a 6A in football and will be for the success factor. Greenwood has just said, hey, we're landlocked. We're a one township school. Being a 4A school is as big as we are going to be in football. There is now a new public school league called the Hoosier Legends Conference that's going to be for schools, say their enrollment's between 600 and 1,000-ish. And so Greenwood's going to go from being the smallest school in the mid-state to the largest school in this new league. And so with that had opened up a spot in the mid-state. And Bloomington North elected it, and I get it. Instead of having to travel to Terre Haute, instead of having to travel up to Southport, now, and even though they're leaving their crosstown rival in Bloomington South, for the longest travel they are going to have would be to get to Plainfield or Franklin, which from Bloomington North is not far. It's a very competitive league, and what it really has turned into is a 5A football league. That's where almost all those schools play. A couple of them are in 6A, but most of them are in 5A. So I understand the move from Bloomington North's perspective.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking forward to it. The boys IHSAA tournament, always a spectacle, and it is always something worth seeing. I recommend any and everyone to go out and get you a piece of it. There is nothing funner than watching high school teams play, especially when there is a potential upset involved. I can think of the greatest memories of my life, and I was an athlete, but I wasn't good enough to play basketball at Floyd Central, but I remember going to the games, sectional, regional, semi-states every year. It was a blast and some of the best times of my life. So go out, even as an adult, go enjoy that stuff. It's pure and unadulterated sports at its greatest level, I think.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
What is up next for you? How do you guys? I know the tournament is 8 days away. So what's the prep between now and then?
So for me, what you get is one final very busy week of boys basketball. So tonight is my week off, and then after that, it is game Tuesday, game Wednesday, game Thursday, game Friday, 3 games Saturday, and 1 game Sunday. Then my focus truly kind of shifts towards high school basketball on that front. I'm going to be at camp at the Carmel sectional, so I'll see that Fisher's Westfield game. Carmel Noblesville is game number 1. HSE and Zionsville both drew the byes respectively in terms of sectional number 8. Then it looks like the Southport Regional for me. And then in the semi-state round, it's been Newcastle the last couple of years. Could be Newcastle, could be Southport that I head to. And then by the time we get to the end of March, just kind of like it is for me coming up on Saturday night from the girls' perspective, 3A and 4A championships at Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
Well, looking like a fun start to the playoff run, which this goes on for the next, month now, I guess. We've got a month. And first of all,
Correct.
You said March 1st, March 4th a minute ago. I cannot believe that March 4th is 8 days away.
Correct. So girls finals wrap up this weekend. We had semi-states around the state. We've got our state championship set from the girls' side. That's Saturday. And then the boys shift into action on Tuesday. So for me, it's 8 weeks of playoff basketball, and I'm in the midst of week number 4. So it makes me a very lucky person.
Well, so what's it like once the tournament ends, besides becoming Rip Van Winkle for a minute? Because I know it doesn't stop for you. Baseball is up next and everything keeps coming, but is there any kind of a break after the basketball tournament?
I get a little bit of a break at the end of March, even during the basketball tournament, because once I get to March 8th, which is the sectional final, then, everything from a high school basketball standpoint is on a Saturday or on a weekend. Now, there's a few things I still do with small college basketball, like I'll likely have a Marion women's NAIA regional for a night, and I'll kind of cover the Horizon League tournament for a couple of days, and college baseball and college softball start to kick in for me at about mid-March because all those teams are having to head and play south. This week, they've actually been getting some home games in, given we get kind of a break in the weather for a week. But it slows down a little bit. So for me personally, it means Indy 11 soccer kicks in. Their season starts March 15th. Again, I'll mix in a little bit of high school baseball, high school softball, some college baseball, some college softball. And then by the time I get to May, then it is conference championships in baseball and softball. And then this little thing called the Indianapolis 500, which tends to catch my attention for about 2 or 3 weeks. So
is that the bicycle race?
Something like that. It was started back in 2009, as in 1909, yes. So the true downtime for me is end of June and then a good chunk of July. That is really the time where I can unplug and then, literally leave the country for a couple of weeks and go hide for a little bit.
I understand that. It's that time of year, but it never stops. And then, of course, basketball here in the state. Yesterday, we had the rivalry game, Indiana and Purdue, which has been a great series here of late. Indiana probably should have swept this series this year, but coulda, shoulda, woulda. That doesn't fly. But they should have won in West Lafayette, made the mistakes. But they left no doubt yesterday in playing the best defense I have seen them play maybe in 4 years. I'm sure you wasn't able to catch the game, but it was certainly something to see. And it came on the 40th anniversary of Bob Knight throwing the chair, and Mike Woodson was sitting in the chair, apparently. I'm not sure if Greg is still with us. If you are, Greg, we can't hear you, so we've lost you there. Maybe we'll get Greg back here in a second. But just thought I'd get his thoughts on there. There he goes. He's coming in here. Let me jump over here and grab him. Hey, you're back. How about that?
Hey, sorry about that.
No problem.
My sincere apologies.
I was just
I
talking.
thought it was the best that Indiana has. I thought it was the best Indiana has played in a while. I thought that second half was fantastic, and I thought the cauldron of sound that Assembly Hall can be was back. People have been so desperately waiting to kind of see that from their team. It was great to see Indiana fans rewarded, and we've said this seemingly after every Indiana win. The last 3 or 4 times they have picked up wins in Big Ten play, there is still a path to the NCAA tournament for this team. They probably don't have any more setbacks they can take, but at 16-11 and given some of the wins they've gotten, like Purdue and Michigan State, the path is there if they can take advantage of it.
That is the crazy thing, Greg. I cannot, for the life of me, figure it out, but I think it's kind of a weak bubble. But the sheer fact that they were only listed as the 6th team out before that win, I was like, wow. And that tells you, had they been able just to pick up one of those other close wins games that they lost, they would be in right now. And they're probably on the bubble this moment. I'm trying to pull up Lenardi's bubble, but I should be pulling up Mike DeCourcy's since he's our guest each week, and I'll pull Mike's up in a minute as well. But the fact that they're there and have the opportunity, so you're saying there's a chance, and there is, but they've got to go on his West Coast swing now, and you can lose to Oregon. I think it's not a bad loss. You cannot lose to Washington, but then they have an Ohio State team at home and a Penn State team at home. They should win both of those. Penn State is not a good win. Ohio State, their metrics are stupid high. I don't know why, because they're a very average team to me. But high metrics, you get that win, that might be enough. Of course, they also will have the opportunity in the Big Ten tournament, which begins soon, Greg, in Indianapolis as well.
Correct. And again, I don't think it's as much as about having to have these great wins. It certainly doesn't hurt. But again, because you picked up wins against Purdue and Michigan State, you've kind of hit that really good win quota. I think you said it well. You have to avoid the bad losses. And I really think if this team can claim 3 out of 4 and then win a couple of games in the Big Ten tournament, Jim, I think they're in.
And that's crazy as I've watched this season. But you know what? Hey, whatever. I'm sure the fans will enjoy it regardless. It's an odd way for this season to end with, Coach Woodson on his way out. But boy, if they could have played like this all season, Mike Woodson would probably still have a job.
That would be fair. And again, that's what is unique about this scenario is that whatever happens these next 4 or 5 weeks, it doesn't change the fact that next year is going to look completely different for this basketball program, both from a coaching standpoint and likely from a roster construction standpoint too.
Yeah, it will be amazing. It will be different. What is up next for you, my friend?
All right, so Pike and Warren Central tomorrow night, Ben Davis and Addicts Wednesday night, the IU Indy season finale for me against Robert Morris. Thankfully, no bus transport is involved, given what happened on the way back from yesterday's game against Northern Kentucky. I think I finish out my Friday night and the high school boys regular season with Triton Central and Speedway. Then I will do the last 2 girls state finals on the IHSAA Champions Network on Saturday night. Then I'll go do the Indiana State regular season finale on Sunday in Terre Haute.
Well, enjoy it and get some rest along the way.
Thanks, buddy.
We appreciate you as always. Greg Rakestraw from the ISC Sports Network joining us here, getting us caught up on all things high school sports in the state. We have got a lot more coming up. The voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joins us next as we'll talk more about the win of Indiana over 73-58 over Purdue yesterday. A pretty much dominant win. And fourth straight loss for Purdue. I forgot to mention that. 4 straight losses. We've got lots more coming up to talk about. We'll do it on the backside from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back right after these messages.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Don Fischer should be joining us here in just a moment. We'll wait for Don to jump in here, but Indiana, I was just looking, moves up to number 56 in the net rankings. That's only one spot difference. Don joining us now. Don, how are you, sir? Pretty good. Not a bad weekend for you.
No, probably one of the best wins, without question, the best win of the season. Really good day yesterday for Indiana basketball, and you got to feel great for these kids. They performed in the second half like a team that we know that they're capable of playing like, and it's nice to see that they finally came up with one of those performances to show everybody else they could do it as well.
Well, I'll tell you how I describe it is, I removed my fan card a long time ago, but in watching the Michigan State game, watching this game, how they played was very similar defensively, like their hair was on fire, but I don't think even the Michigan State performance did not equal this one. The second half, their defensive prowess between Anthony Leal and Miles Rice, the job that they did on Braden Smith, shutting him down, and Trey Galloway with 9 assists. Then you've got other guys that did various different things and this was a team effort, but a small team effort. It was a small group of guys that did the brunt of the work, and they did it very, very well. Anthony Leal, he just did all of those things that you needed to do yesterday. 4 of his points, I remember both times when he scored under the basket. I'm like, how the hell is he scoring under the basket like that? But he got 2 baskets in that way and did a great job, him and Miles, on Braden Smith. And that, to me, is what I've always said about Purdue. Purdue is a good team. I said, but they're just not great, because we saw what UConn did to their guards in the national title game. I go, that's what you do. If you can shut their guards down, they're screwed. And especially with not having a Zach Edey, they could not handle the interior presence that Indiana posed.
Well, if you looked at the games that Indiana has beaten Purdue since Mike Woodson's been the coach, every single time it was shutting guards down. In all those ball games that Indiana won, I think are they dead even in Woodson's career here now? I think they are, as far as the record for Mike is concerned. But it's guard play that you've got to really deal with when you're playing Purdue. If Braden Smith is out there running the point and he is having his way, it's going to be a tough day for your basketball team, whoever it may be. And of course, Fletcher Lawyer had 20 points in that ball game yesterday, but many of his points came late in the contest when Indiana had a good lead. He was the one guy that was just kind of holding them up, keeping them in the ball game at the point where he was scoring. But the truth of the matter is, you've got to be able to, as Coach Woodson would say, you've got to be able to cut the head of the snake off. And obviously they did that yesterday.
18 assists on 28 made baskets, and that's something that was noticed earlier, that they were piling up assists. That didn't happen at the end. I noticed at the half, I'm like, ooh, their assists are really, which means you're moving the ball. And they were successfully doing that. And it wasn't just Anthony Leal had 4 assists. Malik Renew had 4 assists, along with Trey Galloway's 9. So when you're getting 4 assists out of your big guy and 4 assists from an off guard, you're having a good day.
Well, there was no question. The second half was a good day for everybody on the Indiana basketball team. And everybody I'm talking about were the 4 guys that played the entire second half. Yes. And that was Miles Rice, Anthony Leal, Luke Goody, and Trey Galloway. Those guys played all 20 minutes of the second half of the game. I think Galloway played, 38 minutes? He had basically a minute and 57 seconds or something like that he did not play. That was it. But all 4 of those guys played the entire second half, along with Malik and Umar Baldo, who subbed in for one another. So again, we see another more evidence of the fact that when they play both bigs at the same time, it doesn't work as well. And when they've got the one big substituting for the other, it works amazingly well, which is the smaller lineup that Indiana has been able to win with here, especially late this season when they have won games.
Amazing how that happens. Wonderful. But if you'd have said that they will do this with Mackenzie Mbako only playing 9 minutes, scoring 0 points, that would have been hard to believe, but they did. They got it done with hard work. They did not have an outstanding shooting day from behind the 3-point line. They were 4 of 19 for just 21%, while Purdue was 7 of 16. If you beat a team that hits 7 of 16 for 43%, that you're doing something amazing, and Indiana did just that, because that's what Purdue's numbers were from behind the 3-point line.
Well, in the second half, Purdue hit 1 3-point field goal. They had 6 in the first half. And when you look at the first half, what was the score? It was 37 to 25 at halftime. In the second half, Indiana cut those 3-point shots down. Obviously, Lawyer is going to get his points sometimes, but he was the only guy really that was hurting Indiana scoring-wise in the second half of this ball game. And the other thing that they made everything tough inside against Trey Kaufman-Renn. He had a tough afternoon in respect to his normal game. I mean, he scored 9 points. That's well under his average, to say the least. So it wasn't just the guards that were being stopped. It was the inside game as well in that second half. And I give Malik and Umar credit, because both those guys I thought played really well when they were in the ball game in the second half.
Yeah, Indiana had 5 guys in double figures, and that doesn't include Anthony Leal's 8 points, while Purdue just had 2 guys in double figures, and only one of those a starter. And as a matter of fact, if you look at Purdue's starters, 5 and 8 is 13, and 22 points. 22 points.
You're showing us your arithmetic prowess.
Yeah, well, I didn't pull out my fingers at least. But those are 4 starters that you only get 22 points from. That you're not going to win many games when 4 of your starters combine for just 22 points.
Right. There's no question about that. And here's another factor, too, that was big yesterday. Indiana had only 7 turnovers. If you remember, in the first matchup against Purdue, Indiana had 20 turnovers and still were in the ball game. And of course, they ended up losing that contest, but they were in it. Yesterday, only 7 turnovers in the contest. And Purdue, they had 16, which is very rare for them. And that's one of the reasons Indiana was able to get really good offense out of the defensive side, getting it started.
Well, Indiana was the team that was turning the pressure up, putting
Right.
the pressure on Purdue, which forced them, and especially in the second half, it was enjoyable to watch from a technical standpoint. The Indiana was just inside of the Purdue jerseys. They were smothering them, forcing them into turnovers. I will not forget the one with Anthony Leal basically is able to jump up and grab. I forget who it was. I think Fletcher Lawyer maybe was going for a layup, but he was able to grab the ball and get a jump ball. I was like, that's old school. That's side yard basketball, man. But they made it work. They were just relentless from a defensive standpoint.
They were. It's the best half of basketball. I think my color analyst Eric Sewer may have gotten a little carried away with this comment at the end of the ball game, but he
didn't climb on the table, did he?
No, none of that. but Eric said after we got off the air, he said that might be the best half of basketball I've seen at Indiana ever. And from his perspective, that may be true because Eric was a walk-on for Indiana back in the 2002 to 2003 to 2007 seasons, and played a lot of basketball at the end of his 2 years or his final junior and senior year. The last, I think Kelvin Sampson was. His last year, his senior year, was under Kelvin Sampson and Mike Davis's junior year, but he played a lot of basketball as a walk-on in Indiana back in those 2 seasons. And he's an aficionado in the sense of knowing what the last 20 plus years of basketball at Indiana have been. And there's no doubt it was one of the best halves of basketball I think I've seen in a long, long time.
Well, there's no doubt because of what it meant. Because of who it was. You didn't have a bunch of All-Americans out there for Indiana. As a matter of fact, you talked about 3 of the 4 guys that played the entire second half are Indiana seniors. Luke Goody, Trey Galloway, Anthony Leal. Those guys have, Luke Goody has not been at Indiana the whole time. Still an Indiana kid, a senior. This was their last run at Purdue. And so they put up the kind of effort you should see in that scenario.
Well, they certainly have a leadership issue there, and not an issue, but a leadership factor that's there because these guys were playing probably their last game against Purdue. I guess there's a possibility, and I don't know this factually, that Luke Goody could come back because he had a season in which I think each played just 12 games in Illinois and he got hurt and he was out for the rest of the year. And I think that they are put in for a medical redshirt season that he could come back if he wants to. I don't know.
That would be a great carryover if we could get that.
No question. I just don't know what that status is. But at any rate, there's a possibility that all these guys are done. And we know that Galloway and Leal certainly are. And obviously, Baldo won't be back either. I mean, the questions now are all post-season type questions, which I don't want to get into at this juncture because you're going to have a new coach next year. And that guy's going to dictate who's there and who's not in regard to the guys that are still on the roster. But there's still going to be an exodus on this roster at the end of the season. And again, I don't want to get into all that right now because it's way too early to do. But here's what we will say. This team now has put themselves back in the position of maybe getting an NCAA tournament bid if, in fact, they close out this year the right way. And the right way is to win at least 3 of the 4 games they have left and then the Big Ten tournament. So we'll just see how it all plays out. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but just to put yourself back in that picture, I think that gives a little bit of an adrenaline shot to these players.
Absolutely, because it gives you something to fight for. And if you don't have something to fight for, it's kind of hard to maintain that level. But The one thing that they will have to do, Don, is make a West Coast swing where they will go to Washington and then Oregon. Oregon, obviously a team that is trying to bolster their postseason resume. They just got a good win over the weekend. Washington is not a team that has played very well this season. It's a game Indiana can't lose. That's a game Indiana cannot lose, I think, if they have any shot of making the tournament. I don't know that they have to beat Oregon, but that's one that's not a bad loss. You got to beat Ohio State to finish the season out at home,
Right.
as well as Penn State at home, which I think that they will. So I agree with you. If they go 3-1, Oregon's not a bad loss. Boy, they're going to be right smack on the bubble if they're able to do that.
No question. You don't know the Big Ten now has 20 teams, and how many teams will they take out of the Big Ten? And in truth, only about 5 or 6 teams this year have showed themselves in the top 25 on a consistent basis. So it's still up in the air. And conference tournaments and those kinds of things all play into this too. You know, the lesser programs or the mid-majors and those kinds of things, who they take on that in those areas all plays into whether or not there's an availability for an at-large bid.
And you've got other teams that are kind of in Indiana's position. Nebraska is one of those,
Sure.
and they are right in that same Mendoza line fighting for that spot. And theirs can go either way as well. They have to make hay here at the end of the season to make the tournament, I think. But Indiana could surpass Nebraska.
Could happen. Well, again, that's all speculation, and we got 4 games left. And right now, Penn State's on the agenda coming up on Wednesday night, and they just came up with a win over Minnesota. They've had a tough stretch here in the last half of the season for them. And Indiana's beaten Penn State once already, but Penn State is well coached. Mike Rhodes is a good coach. They have maybe found something a little bit here of late. And we'll see how, in fact, that goes. But if Indiana plays up to what we saw on Saturday, they can beat anybody that they play.
And here's the thing. Indiana now tied for 9th in the conference ahead of Ohio State, which is, I'm going to call a definite NCAA tournament team because of their numbers, not because I think they're spectacular, but getting a win over Ohio State alone, that's going to be big for Indiana. And they're in that position. And I think that I can't believe I'm saying this. I think that they can make it in because I said long ago that this team was not going to make the NCAA tournament. And I was pretty convinced I was right until now. And so, but hey, I can say when I was wrong. And, but if I'm wrong, it's great for Indiana fans. I don't mind that. It would be fun to see the fight that they showed Sunday for the rest of the season. Seeing that is an amazing thing.
That's the thing that all year long we've watched this team play, and we've looked for that kind of performance. And I say that because they've had good games before, but there have been a lot of games they haven't finished and haven't been able to win them down to the end here recently, of course. And there are a lot of games where they played poorly. And just didn't seem like they had that competitive edge that you need to compete. So we'll just have to wait and see. This is still a long way to go in regard to what's going to happen here at the end of the year, but Indiana now has something to fight for, and there's no question about that.
Absolutely. So up next, let's see. Is there a coach's show left?
Yes, there is. We play Inside IU basketball. We will have Inside IU basketball tonight from Hoosier Hanks and Yasir Rosemont, who had the scout for this ball game yesterday as our guest tonight. He will be on the show. I think we're going to have Luke Macklin, who is the head manager for this Indiana basketball program. I have always loved talking to the managers. I interview the seniors every year, as many seniors as I can get on. And managers are the hardest working people, bar nobody from the basketball program other than the head coach or the assistant coaches. So these guys work their tails off, and I love these guys, and they're always articulate, and they're always guys that know what they want from their future as well. And obviously Luke is one of those.
I will take you one better. I will say they are the hardest working people in the basketball program because they do so many things that people have no clue about. The hours that they put in, I don't know where the hell they come up with, because I know how many hours I spend doing stuff, and I'm like, boy, those guys are right there. And I'm like, how the hell they go to school? How do they have a life?
They don't.
Exactly.
These guys they have essentially very little social life other than with the other managers who they see every moment of the day. So it's really interesting, and they're great kids. They really are great young men, I should say.
And they have this group of guys are awesome. Know some of them, and they are a great group. And that's what makes it up. And that's why you look and you see these stories, whether it's Dusty May or somebody else. That was Lawrence Frank, a former manager that does so well in this sport, because these are basketball guys, and they use this as it's like a PhD class.
Don't forget Scott Dolson.
Well, Scott, how can I ever forget Scott Dolson? He's got a ring, baby. He's got a ring.
That's right. Hey,
LJ Wright. Do you remember LJ Wright?
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
I went to high school with LJ.
LJ is a great guy. His dad's a wonderful man. No question about that.
My athletics director through high school.
One of the biggest Indiana fans that you'll see, and still comes to ball games and drives up from Jeffersonville or that area down there.
Boys Knobs, what you talking about now? Don't confuse the two.
I know. I don't confuse anything. Well, I confuse lots of things, to be honest with you. But no, I know he's from that area. So at any rate, hey, incidentally, I'll have to do this on a cell phone next Monday, and I won't be able to be on your screen with you. But if you'll call me, I'll do the show on the cell phone, because I will be, I believe, in Eugene, Oregon at that point in time.
Oh, boy. Enjoy that. It's a beautiful area out there.
I know. I haven't been to Eugene. I actually applied for a job there one time, and it was one of the I was in the final 5 for consideration for the position as their play-by-play guy, but I didn't. I started my career in Butte, Montana, back in the day in that would have been 1967. I was a disc jockey in Butte, Montana for a year and a half. And then I came back to Illinois, where I came from. And unfortunately, I never got back west again. And I didn't really want to go to KUGN in Eugene, Oregon for my next sportscasting job. And therefore, getting the Indiana job was the one that was competing with that scenario. And when that opened up, I took the IU job. I didn't want to go west again.
I think you made the wise decision. Decision.
So it was probably it was the good Lord that made me stay here, I guess. I can tell you that.
And Indiana fans are the fortunate ones. Ironically, my last job in television as a sports anchor was out in Washington on the West Coast at KNDU. So spent some time out there too. It was weird. I got to tell you, I loved it, but it was like being in a different country. The 3-hour time swing, Monday Night Football coming on at 6, Sunday football coming on at 9 a.m. I'm like, wow, I don't know. I can get used to this.
I know what you say. I know what you're saying. When I was in Montana, that was a different world I was living in too, especially in Butte.
There's a lot there, Don. There's a lot there.
A lot. All right, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Great one. Appreciate you. The voice of the Hoosiers. Make sure you go out to Hoosier Hanks East for the Coaches Show with Don and Coach Yasir Rosemont. We've got lots more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday, getting your week started off. Appreciate you being with us no matter where and how you're listening, whether it's on one of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN The Ref, always the right call down in Evansville, or 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, the voice of the region, WJOB, up in Hammond, Chicago, and in Fort Wayne on the only sports station in town, 1380 The Fan. You've got it locked in the right spot. Keep it there all day. No reason to go anywhere different. Or if you're following us on YouTube, make sure you're giving us a like, please. Just hit the like button. That's all I ask. You don't have to subscribe. Just hit the like button. What a game. What a fun time that was yesterday just to watch Indiana give that effort. And yeah, the first question that comes out is, well, where's that been? I think that has been, my answer to that is it has been mired in a mess of stuff. There was stuff on top of it that prevented that from rising to the top, and mostly a poorly constructed roster with a poor lineup. As Don mentioned, how successful yesterday it was with one big at a time on the floor, which is not something we have not discussed ad nauseum over the course of this season, 4 seasons, to be honest with you. But it allowed it to come through. It's as if, and I don't want to talk bad because they're having a good run, but Mike Woodson has been forced into doing things differently here at the end. It's sad that it took all of that for it to come to his realization, but maybe they can use that as a way to finish this season and shock everybody and make the tournament be a great way for Woodson to go out. That's for certain. But over the weekend, some other games in the Big Ten. First of all, Illinois and Duke. Oh my God. Now Illinois is hurting a little bit. They lost the freshman Johnson, who was their big forward, who was their inside presence, because Visic, their big guy, he's a perimeter guy. So they don't really have an inside presence without him, and Duke just annihilated Illinois 110-67. Not a good sign for the Illini as in their postseason. Not that they won't make it, they are, but boy, they're not going to go far. Indiana, of course, beating Purdue 73-58. The second half, Indiana allowed Purdue to go on a big run to end the first half. And they were down, I forget how far down they were, but Indiana comes out in the second half looking like a different team, and they go on a 21-1 run. And man, did that change everything, along with the defense that prevented Purdue from making a comeback. They allowed Purdue to get back a little bit, but I think they may have gotten within 9 at one point, but that's it. And then Indiana just closed the door. Yeah, I don't like to say people are overrated, but first is he didn't there was nothing he could do. Period. He couldn't handle the size of Indiana, and he didn't do much himself. So and even Trey Kaufman-Renn, they shut Trey Kaufman-Renn down. Between Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith, they average about 25 or 35 points a game total between them. Or is that right? Or is it 30? It's 30 something. I think Kaufman-Renn averages like 19, Braden Smith 16 or 17. So, around 35 points, something like that. But they held them to a total of 7 and 9, I think. So when you're shutting down effectively, and I mentioned that you got 22 points out of 4 of your starters. You're not going to win many games like that unless you have a hell of a bench, and was not enough there. Other games, though, over the weekend that are affecting the Big Ten. Ohio State went to UCLA, and they might as well stay at home. They lose 69-61. Well, they gave them a good game, but Rutgers at home against USC, picking up a rare win, so they're trying to stay out of that bottom 3. Games coming up beginning tonight. Michigan is at Nebraska. They need to bounce back from boy, how about that upset loss over the weekend at home on the announcement that Dusty May has signed a big extension with Michigan, effectively taking him out of the running for the Indiana job, and Michigan goes out and lays an egg. They got it handed to them by Sparty. Sparty's kind of coming alive. They win 75-62 at Ann Arbor. Now, there is a return match coming up between those two. They will play again. But up next for the Wolverines and Dusty May, they have a game tonight, like I said, at Nebraska, who's fighting to stay in the NCAA tournament themselves. Northwestern Minnesota, that's tomorrow. That's the battle of nobodies. Iowa at Illinois. Illinois is hurting a little bit. Boy, if they take another L, I mean, they're not in danger of missing the tournament, but it's not boding well for them. Also this week, Washington comes to Wisconsin. Wisconsin took a loss over the weekend. I think, who was that to? Oregon? Yes. In overtime, Oregon beat Wisconsin 77-73. So that was on, what was that, Sunday? Yesterday? No, that was Saturday. But big win for Oregon, elevating themselves again. It's been a nice topsy-turvy, fun Big Ten season so far. And right now, you look at the standings, Michigan State, with that upset win over Michigan, now they are a half game in front of the Wolverines. They've played one more game than Michigan has. Maryland. Let me say this again. Maryland tied for third and fourth with Wisconsin. Then you drop to Purdue, who is at 11-6 in the league now. So this race is between Michigan State and Michigan. They both have 3 losses, and Maryland, Wisconsin, the next up, they've got 5 losses. I just think that there's not enough time to make up for that. So Michigan and Michigan State, man, they're going to decide this in the last few games of the season, and they play each other. So it's very likely that they could end up in a tie. Sparty has won 3 straight now. Maryland has won 4 straight now. Purdue has lost 4 straight. Oregon has won 4 straight. So got some teams on a ride. Now at the bottom, Washington, they are at ground zero. 4-12 in the conference. Overall, what are they? Where is their overall record? Okay, 13-14. You know that they are the only team out of 20 Big Ten teams right now that has a losing record. I think that's remarkable. Remarkable for a 20-team conference, and you've got one team that has a losing record, and it's one game under 500. Shows you how tough it is to play in the conference. Penn State, second from the bottom. A team that, boy, that is not what we expected. 1-7 away from home. They're 5-12 overall. Northwestern, 5-11. Those are the 3 teams right now that would not play in Indianapolis for the Big Ten tournament. Now, the 3 teams in front of them that are fighting to stay out of that, all at 6-10. Iowa, Minnesota, USC. USC was on a heater there for a minute. It just shows you how this season can ebb and flow. Then you move up to the next group of 3, or I'll just say 2, and that would be Rutgers and Ohio State, both at 7-10. Ohio State is at 7-10 in the conference and stand a pretty damn good shot of making the tournament right now. Not Big Ten, NCAA. That would be mind-boggling for a 7-10 team, and they're not done. They've got 3 games left. So unless they go on a run, though, I don't know how they're going to wind up on the right side of 500, which that won't have a big bearing. But if they're 3 games, under, how does a team like that make the NCAA tournament? Then you move up to 7-9, Nebraska and Indiana. So Indiana is far from worried about making the Big Ten tournament. Like I said, they're looking at making the NCAA tournament. And as of right now, they have a better record than Ohio State in the conference. Overall, Indiana is 16-11, and they have a better record than Ohio State does overall. Ohio State's 15-13. Indiana could replace Ohio State as an NCAA entrant. And even though Ohio State's metrics are good, their overall numbers not. They've lost 3 straight on top of that. That Indiana's lost to UCLA. That really hurt Indiana. It hurt them a lot more than losing the Maryland game and losing the Purdue game, because it's a game they shouldn't have lost. Number one, it was a home game, and it would have been a quad 1 win. But it is what it is. So there's that. And here's something that's ironic. At 16-11, Purdue is 19-9. Had Indiana been able to put away that Maryland game, that other Purdue game, and not lose that UCLA game, and I know ifs and buts and all that stuff, but these are legitimate what ifs. Indiana would be 19-8 right now. A half game better than what Purdue is. Actually, well, if that was the case, then Purdue would be 18-10 right now. So they would be a game and a half better than Purdue is right now. Just with those 3 game scenarios that they probably should have won. But we'll certainly find out. We've got lots more coming up. Back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Glad to have you with us. Yesterday, Indiana kept their NCAA title, or not title, but tournament hopes alive with a huge 73-58 upset of Purdue. And it was something to behold. I'm telling you, it was a great game to watch as Indiana played the best second half that I've seen them play in potentially 4 years, just from an effort standpoint. And the fact that it came from guys like Trey Galloway, Anthony Leal, Luke Goody, homegrown products. Miles Rice was in that as well. And they could not have done it without Malik Renew and Umar Ballo, whose contributions were huge as well. But Mike Woodson spoke with the media afterwards, and let's hear what Mike had to say.
Just had 9 days between games, and you were down 12 at halftime. In both cases, this team could have easily packed it in. They didn't. What can you say about that second half and how that happened?
It's a great second half. I mean, I didn't play very many people off the bench. I kind of rode the seniors. We've been in a lot of close games over the last month and a half, man, and I just hadn't been able to get them over the hump. And tonight they refused to lose. I thought the second half we did everything from a defensive standpoint that we'd worked on these days that we had to practice, and it was a nice carryover. You know, we couldn't make a shot the first half. I thought we got some decent looks, but we just couldn't make them. And they made shots, and I thought the second half our defense really picked it up, and we were able to get stops, and then we started to make shots.
That was Mike Woodson talking about last night's effort for Indiana, and also a great effort by the Pacers as they keep on rolling. And we are fortunate to be joined by our good friend Dustin Dopirak, the Indy Stars insider for the Pacers. And they're doing what they need to do, man.
Yeah, they are. No, good start. I mean, I think most people thought that the All-Star break would treat them well, because you really started to see them kind of get a little ragged.
When you talked about them needing this rest.
Yeah, no, they very much did. I mean, I think they didn't want to talk about it at the time because they didn't want to make excuses, but they don't, like now that the break is past, they're like, yeah, you know what? After, Paris to a West Coast trip with a week in between was a thing,
You would have think that the NBA would have had enough sense not to do that, because that is you are stretching. That's a 7-hour time difference in that direction.
Sure.
And then, so that's a 10-hour swing, man.
Yeah, I mean, they did have a week in between. I mean, they came home, they got a week at home. I think they only had 2 games in a week. So I think they looked at it and said, okay, well, you're going to have some time to get your, bearings back for a week, and then you're going to go out Utah, Portland. Like you're gonna go to a mountain time zone first. You're going to be doing Portland back to back, but then you get to stay in LA. I mean, there's something to be said for that. Is you get like 4 days in LA where you get to get used to the Pacific time zone, and don't have to worry nearly as much about you're just not moving around. I mean, that's the one good thing about the LA trip is you just get to stay. And I mean, I know as a beat writer, it's nice for me just to be able to unpack my stuff and leave it there and not move. And I changed hotels from Inglewood to LA, but that's more doable than having to get up and get on a plane again and get on a plane again and get on a plane again. So, I mean, there were obviously, sorry, Maxine's upset about something. But there were obviously, I don't know, I'm trying to think. They made a point to try to do something to help, more or less, but obviously it's still not great. You would like to move your West Coast trips away from that if at all possible. And the bottom line, it was just getting there. And so, but you can obviously see the first 2 games, they're way more energized. And just 53 games, is a lot of games, before you get a break like that. And so they very much look like a team that's ready to go for the home stretch. I think Aaron Nesmith in particular really benefited from the time off. Hold on a second here. He really benefited from time off in particular. He's been dealing with an ankle injury, obviously was out for 35 games and has still been sort of figuring it out since then. So I think those are all ways that they've gotten better, basically. And coming in, I mean, it's not an easy schedule to start. You go Memphis, Clippers, Nuggets. Obviously, it was helpful that you faced a Clippers team last night that doesn't have Kawhi Leonard and doesn't have Norman Powell. So you're mostly just dealing with the James Harden show at that point, which is, not an easy cover all itself. He had 31 and 11. But, if you don't have to deal with those other 2, basically you just have to, kind of let him get his and go from there. So, but yeah, I mean, they've looked more energized. They look like the breaks made a difference. They do get the Nuggets on the second night of a back-to-back tonight, and that's not going to be an easy win to get because they're obviously playing the best player in the world. But still, good start. Keep holding on to a half-game lead on Milwaukee, for that 4 seed, which I think is really important to be able to, be home court. I think that's going to be the series. I think you're going to end up seeing, Indiana and Milwaukee in round 1. It's just a question of who's at home for 4 out of 7 there. And so I think it's important for them to try to just maintain that 4 spot.
Yeah, and how about Aaron Nesmith? It's getting games from guys that are not always the guy is always huge for a team. It just shows growth. It shows potential, and it shows the depth. And Indiana is not just Tyrese Halliburton, although he's a great part of that, no doubt.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, you're getting, I mean, obviously Ty got going himself. I mean, he had 29 and 12 last night. You're seeing the real aggression from them, and you're seeing a lot of, you're seeing them do a good job of, making sure he's getting the opportunity to go downhill. I think one thing he said is that he's got, really good screens from Miles Turner that sprung him loose, and he's able to play free and in a lot of space. And that's opening things up for everybody else. But they had 7 guys in double figures last night. And that's when they were at their best offensively last year, that's what you would see is 6-7 guys a night getting in double figures. And, the way that's spread out has been pretty good. Obviously, they moved Benedict Mathurin back to the bench. I have kind of big picture questions about whether that's going to be best for him long term in terms of, because they were working so hard to make him fit in a starting lineup. So that, because he's got that sort of offensive aggression, but they wanted to kind of not dull that a little bit, but make it fit within the way they play offense, the way they move the ball. Moving them back to the second unit allows him to become more of an attack scorer, which is good on one hand because, it allows him to kind of use his skills. But the other part is, he'd kind of do too much in that scenario in the past, where he'd just drive into crowds, basically just try to kind of force action. And that's really what Rick Carlisle was trying to kind of coach out of him. And so I'm not sure how that's going to go. But, Neesmith is a guy that's just always fit offensively, made shots, like just really good floor spacer, run of the corner type of guy, hustle player. But I think, last night I thought a couple of things that you saw that was good. He's really good at driving the basketball. Just took a couple opportunities to get it to the rim. He's always been okay at that. But anyway, he's just not done it a lot, and he saw a lot of opportunities to take it there. And it had a big offensive rebound earlier that I thought was really important. He just chased it down, ran to the corner, and hit a three. Just outran everybody the Clippers had. I mean, he kind of started the 3-point line, ran in there, crashed, got it, and just that play I thought really just sparked them, got them started, kind of showed the Clippers that they were down 2 men, and it was like, oh yeah, the Pacers are going to grind at you with their depth. Like, everybody on this team is going to be a problem for you, and that's why it's going to be a long night when you don't have those two guys.
And so now what's up next for the Pacers? What do they have to do? What are they steady into? I think they have another home game first?
Yeah. Tonight is Denver. So Joker.
Oh yeah, Joker's in town.
Yeah, so that's gonna be an issue in and of itself. Jamal Murray.
Yeah. He's an issue in itself.
Yeah, no, he's having one of the best offensive seasons in history. I mean, it's really remarkable. 29
Is he not the most unathletic looking and most dominant player? He's one of the most unathletic looking dominant players I've ever seen.
Yeah, he and Luka both are the guy that you see at the Y and don't take seriously.
And then they kick the ever-loving crap out of you.
Until he's just making you look like an absolute moron. But he is the hyper version of that, the most, the ultra version of that, because you just look at him, you're like, well, that guy can't be any good. And he's unbelievable. And he's just unbelievable. And it's just everything. I mean, I think Luka's good, but I mean, I understand the issues with, concerns about conditioning and whatnot with him. Joker doesn't matter because he's huge, that also just makes a difference. But I mean, he can be your point guard. And frequently for them is, and just the number of things that they can do with him is unbelievable. I mean, he's just one of the best passers, big man passers ever. He's going to go down as top 2 or 3 in that category. He shoots the ball. His touch is unbelievable. I mean, his numbers are nuts. It's I think I wrote him down last night. It's 29.7 a game on 54.7 shooting, 44% from 3, 12.7 rebounds, 10.2 assists. He's averaging a triple double, that's, him, Big O, and Westbrook, and that's it. Obviously he's got to hold that through the end of the year, but that's just, it's incredible stuff.
And a schedule coming up. You've got the Nuggets in town, which obviously, like you said, that's a problem. Then they will host Toronto for yet another home game before heading to Miami to take on Kel'el Ware and that group, and then they come back to take on the Bulls and the Rockets. So they've got a nice little schedule here.
Yeah, no, I mean, they hooked him up. It was sort of like they forced him to go on the road on obviously a lot of the pre-break period, and so this is kind of where they get they help them out on the back end, more or less, is that you'll see more home games. They've got to spend a lot of time on the road in March because Indy is hosting a good amount of tournament basketball, NCAA, Big Tens, NCAAs, etc. They've got a couple against, a couple out in Atlanta and Chicago. Then they got a 3-game trip where it's Philly, Milwaukee, and Minnesota. And, so basically a lot of times where everybody's coming to Indy, the Pacers go elsewhere for the course of the month. But more or less, there's not, again, they've got both of their kind of West Coast road trips out of the way. They still have to go to Denver in April on a one-off, which is kind of rare that you'll play a West Conference game in Mountain Time or somewhere further west that's by itself. That's kind of rare for these guys, but it's all manageable travel down the rest of the way, and so that's that's helpful for them. They get this, they get a chance to kind of get get rolling downhill, just with some of these home games. And then, again, the travel after this is manageable. So they're in a good place, but, they're in a really good place to be, a top 6 playoff team, but it's really coming down to just battling with Milwaukee and even Detroit. Detroit's still hanging around right there. I think they're like 3 games back. And, they still look really good. So it's really kind of those 3 teams for those 4, 5, 6 spots. Again, you want to be 4 if you have the opportunity to hold that. It's going to be hard to catch the Knicks, Celtics, Cleveland. Those 3 are pretty set up there at the top. But, if you can get the 4, and I think if these guys win a playoff series, I think that's a win for them. I mean, I don't if you're a Pacers fan and they get beat by Cleveland or Boston in the semis, I don't think you can be mad, because I think those teams are just they're destined to meet each other. I think in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it's going to be a banger of an Eastern Conference Finals. But if the Pacers get Milwaukee, beat them again, and get to play Cleveland in the first round, and just give Cleveland a fight, I think you can kind of check the box and say, okay, that was an ultimately productive season that's keeping them on a good track.
What do you need to see from the Pacers through this last third of or last quarter of the season, I guess,
to say, hey, this is going to be a good playoff team? I mean, I think, the most important thing is to, that they don't look the same at the end of 29, these 29 that they did at the end of the first 53 before the break. I think the biggest leap they've made, the most important thing that they've done to get better is, that the full court pressure has been excellent. And, basically they've been able to go full court man to man and wear teams out. And so the issue is that if you do that every night, you can wear yourself out. And so the question is, can they hold that up through the rest of the regular season into the playoffs and, not be worn out at that point? Again, they have depth in ways that say the Knicks don't, or at least they use it. Basically, like Tom Thibodeau just says, I'm going to play my 5 guys, and if I run them absolutely ragged, that's fine. Rick Carlisle's not going to do that. He's going to play at least 10. He probably should find some more minutes for Jarris Walker, honestly, just to make sure he's getting on the floor. If they're going to play with this, this level of intensity and this much pressure. But I think the question is that going to be able to hold up? Are they still going to look as good defensively, a month from now, 6 weeks from now, as they do, right now? That's really the question, because the biggest number has gotten better is turnover margin. They're creating a lot and they're not giving it away very much at all. And so that, I think, is quietly their most important stat of this year. Because you obviously spend all last season talking about the offense, and they're better defensively overall. But what's made them better is that they're turning you over. They're getting after you. They're creating pressure on the ball, getting steals. That's turning into offense. And that's when they're at their best. And basically, and again, they're also not giving it away. It's not a team that's just throwing the ball around and just playing this, playing chaos. They're able to, force turnovers in your backcourt and not give it away themselves. And so, that's been, I think, a really big deal on the possession area. And so if they can maintain that, and then they're going to be trouble in the playoffs, for Milwaukee. And they're going to be I don't think they beat Cleveland. Cleveland looks great. And right now it'd be Pacers at the 4, Cleveland at the 1. I don't think Boston cares if they catch Cleveland. I think Boston's totally okay with being the 2 seed and even having to go there 4 out of 7. I think they're okay with that, basically. And Boston's a team that won it last year. They'll be okay with the idea of playing on the road there. But I think the likely path for the Pacers is to play Cleveland. And I don't think they beat Cleveland, but I think they can be annoying for Cleveland if they're going to pressure as much as they are. That was obviously a problem for Cleveland when they played, for the Cavs when they played in Cleveland the first time.
Yeah, and they're doing the things that they need to do, and it seems like they have other players that are playing better this time of this year than, say, last year. And I'm not saying that they weren't good last year. Obviously, they went to the conference finals, but it seems like they're getting some elevation of play from other guys that they can count on.
Yeah, no, I think Andrew Nembhard took a big leap. I think that when he got back from knee tendonitis, they've been a different team more or less ever since, especially since he's been playing, full minutes. He had a stretch where he was on a minutes restriction coming off of that, wasn't playing the second nights of back-to-backs, it was kind of easing back in to it. And really, since he's been back, that's when you've seen a different team. And really it's because he's just taken it up a level defensively. He's just gone up another notch. And so, that he's been spearheading, the defensive pressure, and everybody else you've been able to rely on. Again, Halliburton, you really take away the first kind of month from Halliburton's season, and he's right kind of close to what he's used to. Like, he's got a handful of games that are, aberrations. He hasn't been great, but he's not too far off of what you expect from him. Siakam has been steady since they got him. I mean, they've just been able to really rely on that guy. I think, you've seen really good play from Miles Turner the last couple games since he's been back. He missed a couple right before the break after Mathurin accidentally punched him in the face, going up for a block. He just kind of swung his hand and, caught Turner square like that. And, so he had like kind of a neck strain, but since he's been back, these first 2 games out of the break, he's been really, really good. Ben Mathurin, obviously having him healthy still at this point, obviously it was a couple weeks after this last year, March 5th when he got his labrum tear. I think he's really just bucking to be, basically in playoff series. I think he's going to be really ready for that. McConnell maybe has taken a half step back from last year, but he's still been really good. Plenty good enough. I mean, Thomas Bryant has been very effective in that backup center role. They've been able to trust him. Obi Toppin has still been what Obi Toppin is. I think he's done a little bit better defensively, but you can still kind of trust him that you just throw the ball up and he'll go get it. I had a couple really impressive dunks last night. They've got a lot of guys they've been able to trust. And so, with everybody healthy, they've been a problem. And I think that they had 3 important injuries in kind of November and December, and it was tough to kind of put in perspective how important they were, because it was all guys who don't score a ton of points. It was Nembhard, Neesmith, and Ben Shepherd. But those guys all really defend, they run, they hustle. They're really good connector guys, and they should have done better in November and December, even without them. But all the same, it was clear that they were missing those 3 guys, and they've been a different team since they've been back.
What has been that difference this year, do you think?
Just, again, having them is a big deal. They've been, I think, they spent a lot of the last 2 years talking about getting better defensively, and just saying you got to do it, you got to do it, you got to do it. And it's there, a lot of times with things like that with teams. It'll be a focal point, and it just takes a while to actually make progress with it. It seems like you should just be able to flip a switch and change it, but they had to, they had to really get disciplined about it. They had to really kind of take it seriously, understand, and take next steps as far as getting to be better individual defenders, but getting to be better team defenders, having a philosophy that works. All of those things kind of came together this year, where all the pieces are kind of there. Again, some of those guys are also more experienced. Shepard's a second-year guy. Nembhard's a 3rd-year guy. Neesmith is 3rd year on the roster. Mathurin's 3rd year on the roster, or a 3rd-year guy. And there is, some of that is experience. It's been a young team. And, they were able to, just go wild and score a whole bunch of points last year. But, they were, again, they've seen why defense is a problem, why defense is an issue if you're not stopping anybody. I think they have, put that into practice, taken it seriously, and gotten after guys.
Well, that sounds like a winning formula. We've got lots more coming up. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star is with us. He is the beat writer for the Pacers. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping local papers alive. We're back with more with Dustin on the backside of these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Monday. Grateful to have you along. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star with us as well. And yesterday, a pretty big upset, Dustin, in college basketball, at least in this state, is Indiana. I shouldn't really call it an upset since they really should have beaten them at Purdue the first time around. I think they showed that their matchup is one that Purdue does not handle well, and they just did not complete the deal in West Lafayette because they actually could have easily swept Purdue this year, beating them handily in Bloomington yesterday, 73-58. But not only that, it was the 40th anniversary of the chair. I didn't even know that going in. I had missed that, but Mike Woodson was not only asked about it, apparently he has the chair. I had never heard that. I know there have been lots of stories about it, and most people thinking that it was lost to the ages because those old red plastic chairs, they were just single chairs. They would just get stacked in just big old stacks of chairs, you know, and after every game, all that stuff gets taken up. You probably wouldn't recognize all the scores table, all that stuff gone. Mike Woodson, well, I'll let him tell you what he said. But here's Mike Woodson's talking about he actually used it yesterday.
It is probably the chair. I've had it a while. I know a lot of people say they have the chair, but guy by the name of Scott Greer, who was the track coach, let's take that back, not the track coach, the tennis coach here many years ago. He was the only one thinking out of the box that night when Knight threw that chair. And that morning he got up and he came to Assembly Hall and he got the chair and he got Sam Bell and Yeagley and Doc Councilman and Coach Knight to all sign off on it, took pictures with it. And good friend of mine, his wife was Scott Greer's daughter, and he passed away about a year ago, and there sat the little red chair with all the documentation. And I happened to get my hands on it, so that's why it was special to have it here tonight. I wasn't going to throw the chair, but I did want to sit in it.
That's he did say probably at the beginning. I did catch that. But maybe it is. I don't know because it did not, when he threw it, I don't know what happened to it at that moment. Where did it go? So to have kept it separate. So that's the question. It doesn't matter.
Did it I'm trying to I didn't see, I've seen the video, but I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Did the chair break?
No, it just skidded. It was just in circular going across, and it was going towards a cheerleader, and that's they either kind of pushed it away or let it a little bounce off or something.
Right.
And then it was towards the area of the locker room where the team comes out for the game,
right?
Not for the pregame shoot around. But what happened? Where did I'm going to go back and look and now see where did they do with that chair immediately from that point? Did they just take it back behind there somewhere? So it's possible that it was kept separate.
This sound, like I was.
This never came from anything inside of IU athletics, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the fascinating point is like, all right, well, not fascinating, but it's like there, he's telling the story. I'm like, all right, well, let's call this Scott Greer person and find out. And he's like, well, Scott Greer passed last year. It's like, rest in peace. Sorry to hear that.
Well, there are others to call. Todd Diegley.
Yeah, so there must be people that know this, that know of this Scott Greer, and there have to be people who can confirm this story, is what I would say. So
the fact that somebody was thinking like that was smart, at least.
Yeah, no, I'm entertained by this concept that there was somebody there that said we need to keep this for posterity because it's going to be a deal. And this, I mean, it makes sense. Like 1985 is kind of the midst of like the baseball card boom, basically, when everybody starts to kind of realize that you'd be rich if your boomer parents kept their cards, you'd be rich, and they didn't. So you better keep them. But now none of our cards are worth anything, because we all kept them and they're all on boxes in our attics, more or less. But yeah, no, I think so at that point, I'm not surprised that somebody thought about a collector's item that it crossed somebody's mind that like, okay, you could keep this thing and it might be worth something. But it's just funny that nobody that information apparently hadn't surfaced in 40 years. Like nobody,
because there have been many conversations about it.
Right. Yeah. And what happened to it. And so if Scott Greer was quietly sitting there with it, telling no one,
but all these other coaches knew.
Yeah, exactly. And they also were, I guess, sworn to secrecy or just weren't asked. I mean, like, and it sounds like there was a lot of people who weren't asked. And I imagine if you asked Bobby what happened to the chair, he would have just like looked at you, stared at you, looked at someone else, and
Oh, I know exactly what he would have
found some vile way of telling you were an idiot.
He would say, "How the F would I know?"
Right? Yeah, exactly. Do you think?
I mean, that would have been.
Why are we asking about chairs anyway?
Or do you think I effing care?
Right. Exactly. So, bottom line, you would not have heard that from Knight. So it's like. And if Knight didn't want anybody to know, nobody else would have said it, more or less. So I am very like that's a cool story that I hope somebody gets to write. And I don't know if you can get a hold of again the Greer family. I'd be very interested to find out how the secret was kept for 40 years.
I agree, and with the others as well. That's a great idea. So, but now moving ahead. Indiana is looking for a new coach, and Dusty May is off the table. And now the ironic thing is there's a poll on the Hoosier.com, and I know it doesn't speak for everybody, but it speaks for, I think, the general fan. And it's kind of an overwhelming want of Chris Beard by the general fan.
Right.
And that is not going to happen, in my opinion. And I already thought that, but when you add to it the fact that they were supposed to wear these Fear of God uniforms that actually have nothing to do with Kanye West anymore, but the mere perception that they might was, I believe, the reason why Indiana did not end up wearing them, which I think is kind of stupid. If you do the research, if it's not related to someone, it's not related to them, and that's all you have to say. But regardless, if they're that, if they're that scared of little bitty things like that, they ain't hiring Chris Beard.
Yeah, I mean, well, probably not. And I kind of felt bad because the last time we talked about this, I probably overconnected things. That's
what it's for. It's like Lay's potato chips. That week's gone. They made more. Made a whole new bag this week.
No, I mean, I think like again, I mean, I guess my point has always been with Beard. It's like you just have to know, like you cannot Like the question isn't like, obviously, again, as was pointed out, and I probably haven't made this very clear enough. Obviously, charges were dropped, so you're not dealing with that as a court case, holding over somebody's head. But like obviously, court cases sometimes get dropped in cases when something actually did happen. And not only that, it's a question of, okay, well, what's the grander pattern of behavior? Are you seeing? Was that not a tip of the iceberg, but is that the worst thing that comes out of a pattern of behavior? Or at worst, alleged thing that comes out of a pattern of behavior, or is that a one-off freak occurrence, or something that that's hyper specific for some reason. It's just like, basically, I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to trust the guy, no matter what it is. And so you, like, if again, it's your job on the line, and PR matters, but like you just, like, that's the person who has one of the most important jobs for you. And so you have to trust that he can do it. You have to trust that he's going to do it and not cause problems elsewhere. And so, like, that's really it. And that's just the question. Like, at the end of the day, like, Scott Dolson has to ask himself, with somebody like that, do you trust him? And you don't have to do it to make everybody else happy. You're the one who has to work with him, like, at the end of the day. Like, I mean, I get, again, and this isn't just the Indiana fan base. I know, like, a lot of people think that that's what I'm getting at. It's not. Like, every fan base I've ever been around, everyone I've ever covered, whenever there's an opening, whenever they have a job opening, they say, let's look at the biggest name guy who was trouble, and that's the gutsy thing to do, is to go get the guy that was in trouble before, because no one else will touch him. You can get him. He's one at this level. Like, if you give him a second chance, it's going to pay off. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And so it's just like, it's like saying, well, that's the gutsy move. That's, but it's just like, look, you got to live with it. You're like, you recruit your own problems, you recruit your own issues, as they say about getting players, and so you hire your own problems, and so, like, if it's there, if he's good, if you talk to enough people and you feel confident that, hey, like, any issues he had in the past are over, he's moved on, he's matured, he's grown up, he doesn't do this, that, or the other thing anymore. And again, like, I know, again, charges were dropped as far as the domestic abuse issue, but like, if you kick around the tires and you feel like, okay, like, this is not a guy I got to worry about, then, hey, then feel free. But it's just like, again, like, you're the one who has to trust him. You're the one who has to, like, you're putting your name on this. And so if you don't trust the guy, like, then don't, is sort of my thing. And like, I get it. And
but I don't think it's about that. I think Indiana is too tied up in perception, in optics.
Like, I get that. I mean,
obviously, if they're not going to simply wear a uniform just because someone used to be associated with it, how the God's green earth are they going to hire someone to lead their basketball program?
I mean, I get that, but it's all like, there is, what am I trying to say here?
I agree with you, but I just don't see it happening.
Like, I don't think it's even as simple as optics, because, and what I mean by that is, it's like, you don't just, like, I mean, and I understand a uniform is obviously optical, that's an obvious thing, but, like, I get how, like, look, things are intense when it comes to that particular line of discussion right now. And, like, obviously what Kanye said, like, the most despicable things that you could say out loud, like, recently. And so
he's an idiot. He's a moron.
Even a tangential.
I think he's crazy, personally. I mean, I think he's a little crazy.
I mean, I don't know if there's another way to put that, but, like, you're going. So I get feeling that angry. I mean, like, because there are, like, like, there are people that would take those particular comments very, very personally. And I get feeling that, like, it's not even just optics. It's just like feeling like I don't want anything to do with anything that ever had to do with this guy. Like I get that. I don't think it's just about whether you look good or not. Like, I get feeling that enraged by what he said, to feel like I don't want anything that ever touched, that was ever in this guy's vicinity. Like, I get that. So, like, that's there. I do think those are different things. And again, I understand the idea. Like, I think if you're an IU fan, you feel like, okay, we're trying to be pure as the driven snow here, and that's going to make it impossible to make a good hire. And so, like, I mean, I get that. But like, I mean, I would also say, like, you can get a good coach that doesn't cause you any problems. Like, I mean, I so like here's no, I'm not going to go there. Like, it's just you can get a good coach that doesn't cause you any problems. Like, you don't have to roll the dice on somebody like that you're not sure about. Just because, okay, he's the biggest name. Like, you can find a coach to take your job that does not make you ask yourself any questions about whether you're making a bad choice, or whether you're putting yourself in a bad position. That's the thing I would say. Like, you don't, if you don't trust it, you don't have to risk it. Again, if you trust him, if you dig in, and you find out, hey, this guy is good. And like, I don't think you should hold it against him forever. He's obviously gone to someplace else. He's won. He must be at least keeping it together enough to live in Oxford, Mississippi, and not get in trouble in any way that we know. So, like, there's reason to think, okay.
And that's a conservative area down there.
Oxford itself is less. Obviously, Mississippi is as a whole. I mean, you can't get a drink after midnight on a Saturday.
Really?
At least
my daughter goes to school there. I didn't know that.
That was the case last time I was there, which would have been 15. So 2015, 20, can't remember if it was 2014 or 15. One or the other, though. Tennessee played down there, and at the time, Hugh Kallenberger was there and Courtney Cronin were there. And so, like, they showed me around the Grove and the whole bit, and which was really, really cool. But he was like, oh, yeah, I'd say come meet me for a drink, but they stopped serving them here after midnight, on a Saturday. So if you guys are still working, that's not going to be an option. So, yeah, I mean, it is a group that really gets down, obviously, but, I don't think as of then, bars weren't open after midnight. So it is obviously a very, very, and that's on a Saturday because it was going into Sunday. Sunday obviously is the Lord's Day, so you're not messing around with that.
So my question that you don't have the answer, I don't have the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. With Dusty May being taken off the table, and I mean, it's not a huge surprise, I guess, because that shows you that they probably didn't have much of a chance at getting Dusty anyway. And now the big $64,000 question is, who is that call after Dusty? Because there has to be a guy that they're going to target. And they're going to have more than one, but they're going to have a target that is number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it's like, okay, I don't have the answer to that one because there is just too many names. I mean, whether it's TJ Otzelberger, whether it's Ben McCollum, whether it's Scott Drew, his name is quiet. His name has been very quiet during this, which I'm like, it just, anything like that makes me go, because I know he's attainable financially. Does not mean he wants the job or will take the job, but he's doable. So, if someone has a $20 million buyout, I'm not looking at them.
Sure.
But a guy that has a $4.5 million buyout, Indiana's looking at.
Right. Drew's, I mean, I still, the whole thing with Hunter Perea will always make me, leery about Scott Drew.
And what happened there? I forget. You got to remind us of that story.
I believe the assistant coach was accused of telling Hunter that if he didn't come to Baylor, he'd get him deported.
Now, but is that on Drew or is that on the assistant?
It's
because
on
we
the
know
assistant.
assistants will go off the reservation a lot. Pardon my French there.
Yeah, I mean, that's still, but it's like, I mean, and like, obviously the question is, all right, like, what did you do about that? And I don't know that, like, I know, like, Greg Doyle got after Scott about that at some point in time, and I don't know that Scott has had a, for lack of a better term, sufficient answer to that question. So I do think that's one that's still, like, and again, I know it's Hunter, and obviously, like, Hunter's career didn't pan out the same way, but like, that was pretty vile. That's a really messed up thing to say to kid, more or less. So that I think is one that makes Scott Drew tough, a tough pill to swallow. As far as that's, because obviously you're talking about what 12, 13 years ago now. But
so then if you wipe him off of the deal, then
who's next?
Then who's next?
I mean, I think you call TJ Otzelberger, but I don't know. I mean, like
now someone reported that it was reported that his buyout was so much lower than what was expected, which doesn't mean a lot because he's an Iowa kind of a guy, and I think his wife is an ISU alum, Iowa State alum.
Yeah.
So a lot less pressure there, man. It's a lot smaller, or it's a lot bigger fishbowl to swim around in.
Yeah. No, that one's going to be that one would be a tough sell. I mean, I think you call. I like, obviously, if you're Indiana, the sell that you're making is this. This is the big time, and you're going to have big on NIL money, and you're going to have these options, you're going to have those options and whatnot. I mean, and you so guys that are basically guys that are comfortable. Like where they are, they're comfortable, they're happy. That is going to be a tough sell because you're saying, all right, like they know it's a fishbowl. They know like the amount of tension that's going to be there. They know what they're going to have to deal with, and they know it's going to be a lot. But your job is to sell that. Is to say like, all right, like but you can stay in your comfortable situation, but like why not go for the gold, man? Like we're going to pay you more money, like you're going to have all these facilities, like you're going to have all this on NIL money, you're like, it is a top of the line, not top of the line, but like it's a historically great program. Like
I think it is a top of the line job because it's a sleeping giant, not because of where they are at this moment, but Kansas is a top of the line job. They've kind of stunk for the last 2 years. Now, I mean, they haven't had losing seasons, but this is not where you would expect Kansas to be, especially with the money they have. NIL money. They're not poor. They're paying guys, they have a loaded team and aren't doing worth the crap.
Right. Yeah, no. And so, ultimately, like, I mean, you can sell them on this is a big thing. And so it's like, and again, you might not get everybody, like there are guys going to say like, no, man, I'm comfortable. It's not worth it. And that might be the right call for them. At the end of the day, I mean, if they're happy, they're happy. But like, and that's obviously a decision they have to make with, their wives, their families, like everybody involved in terms of, okay, do we really want to go do this? And for some people, the answer is no. But like, you got to call the question with some guys, and say, okay, like put this in front of you. If this is an opportunity, if this is it, are you really going to turn it down? So I mean, I don't think Otzelberger takes the job. I know at least one person who would be surprised if he took the job. But
who's that? His wife?
No. No. I'm sure his wife. Maybe his wife would be surprised if he took the job. So bottom line, I don't think that you can't not make some of these calls. If you like what the guy's doing on the court, make the call.
And you've got there's other things that are coming into play. Iowa is most likely going to have a job opening, not for sure, but I think that they're going to probably part ways with Fran Khan, which is, that's going to be, what a loss is that going to be, not having Fran Khan 1 through 9
for all of us.
Gee whiz, I just hate the thought of that, but surely he's not going to retire. But boy, either Ben McCollum, they could just slide right in right there. Low pressure. So North Carolina, possibly a job opening coming up. So there's going to be other jobs open up as well.
Sure. And you have to jump on what's there as soon as you can. But yeah, no, I mean, you call Ben McCollum. You really want to stay at Drake? And if you're going to move, is Iowa going to be enough for you? Like what if Indiana's sitting right here?
And then you've got the crazy, just because it makes crazy fodder for reporting is Mark Byington, who is at Vanderbilt and doing a decent job at Vanderbilt. First of all, that says enough. but doing a decent job at Vanderbilt in the SEC.
Sure.
I think he beat Kentucky this year. But he worked at James Madison with Kirk Cignetti. Yeah, it's irony. And does that mean that? No, it doesn't. But how wild would that be? Because he had success at James Madison, which is how he ended up at Vanderbilt.
Right. I mean, I covered James Madison. This would totally be crazy for me if everybody at IU was suddenly guys who coached at James Madison before. And yeah, well, I mean, like, look, I mean, like they had gotten better, but I mean, I saw those guys, that program at the bottom. You know, I mean, they did the first 3 years I covered them, they didn't win 10 games. So, you know, like it took him a while to build them up. And for the games that he, you know, not just getting the tournament, you know, but like the games that he won there, you know, I mean, I certainly was really impressed, you know, I mean, like obviously they built up, you know, they moved up to FBS football. And so that means there's a lot more money in there. They built a new arena. I mean, they since I left, they did a really good job of building up that department as a whole. So it's not as shocking that they were able to pull it off after, you know, basically just seeing what all investments went in there. But still, you know, like you went in a place like James Madison, you went in a place like Vandy, you know, like that's hard to do. So, you know, like I mean, he's at least worth the call.
Well, there'll be plenty. We'll have to find out. It's going to be a minute. But what's up next for you, brother?
Yeah, man, Denver, you know, cover home game at Denver tonight, home game at Toronto on Wednesday. They go to Miami. I'm not going there, but there are a couple more games the weekend. So nice to still be able to stick around for a while and, you know, cover some home games. But, you know, going to get interesting down the stretch here.
Absolutely. Cannot tell you how much we appreciate you as always.
Thanks so much, Jim.
Dustin Dopirak, the beat writer for the Indiana Pacers for the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow and being a subscriber. We've got more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We'll take a quick break and we'll return. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. So happy to have you along for the ride. And just had a good time with Dustin Dopirak, finishing up. But Matt Painter in the postgame yesterday was asked about the Indiana coaching position, not per se as his interest, although there are fans that would love to have him, and with good reason. He's a hell of a coach. But here's what Matt had to say about that.
I really don't have a thought on the job. Obviously, we compete against them, and they're our rivals. And they're the guy that's the coach here is a peer of mine. Like even though you compete and want to beat somebody, you want to see other people be successful and keep their job. Just like any of you guys would think the same thing about the other people sitting to your left and right. So it's like anything. Like you got to get a good person. You got to get a good coach. You got to get a guy to understand it. They've had a lot of turnover. Obviously, I think you got to look at some of the common denominators here more than anything. I think that's an important piece right here. Like, don't beat yourself. Like, let's support somebody. Like, I try that out for once every now and then. When shit goes wrong, like whatever you think Purdue fans are happy about what just happened. Like you like, see, a fan base isn't the people that tweet. A fan base is the people when you're bleeding, they support you. Like they jump in and on. They jump on and off things here way too much. Like, support your coach, man. Support your players. Don't tweet negative things about them. Like, be supportive. Like, see how that works for you. But they build them up, like, and they overdo things. Like, quit overdoing shit. Just accurately, like, talk about what's actually happened. Like, don't like get like recruits and like that's Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. Then they come out here. Well, they're not Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. They're good college players. Like, and then they build it up. Then they go, well, what's wrong? Well, they're part of it, but it's not their total fan base. It's just that everyone has a bad percentage of their fan base now because of Twitter. And then we think that's their fan base. It's not our fan base. It's not their real fan base either. And so I think that's an important piece, but it's hard for young people to hear all that and then go out and collectively play like, hey, man, we're playing for you guys, but you dog us when we lose, and then we're the best when we win. Well, we're somewhere in between, right? So, like, I think they need to learn from some of those things and support Scott Dolson and support the new coach and support the staff, but also kind of be grounded with everything. And they'll be able to, I think they'll be able to have success. It's just a different world now. We have 18 teams, right? We're going to go into the name, image, and likeness, and some changes are going to be made here in April. So it'll be real interesting to see just the landscape for everybody.
That was Matt Painter giving some sage advice, and I think he's dead on balls accurate, as they said in My Cousin Vinny. That is exactly, I agree 1,000%. The people, all the messages that you see, it's not that that's not the fan base, but that's not the fan base that Scott Dolson is looking at, because I'll be honest with you, I think that 90% of those people are not donors, not season ticket holders. And I'm not saying none of them are, but I'd say the good majority are not. They support them as being a fan, but not in other ways. And so though, it's a weird thing now, having social media and everybody being able to just express an opinion in a split second. It's kind of like road rage. You hide behind the anonymity of a keyboard. A lot of people hide behind the anonymity of anonymity without using real names, not fake accounts, but just accounts that don't have their name with it and all of that. So, but it's all a part of the circus today, and it goes with it. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We'll get to talk more about it tomorrow when Mike DeCourcy joins us. And I'm still trying to decide whether or not to bring back Travis for one more run, but I don't know what good that would do tomorrow. I'm sure there would be, who knows? It wasn't fun last time. So, but we'll see what else we can get scared up on the program tomorrow. But a big old thanks to everybody today for joining us. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Great to hear from Mike Woodson and that story about the chair. I'm going to have to dig more into that. That was something I had never heard. And I'm just amazed that, like Dustin said, that for all this time, there have been questions a lot, and there have been stories, and it's always been thought that there have been a couple of people's, well, I have the chair. Well, no, this is the chair. And to be truthful, since Mike Woodson, if he has the chair, that thing should be in a glass box sitting above Simon Scott Assembly Hall. As a matter of fact, last night when I was at the gym, I said, well, if they really have that thing, they ought to cover it in disco ball glass things and then hang it from the scoreboard, especially whenever they play Purdue, and just give it a nice little spin and a spotlight. It would be kind of funny. What do you think? So that's going to wrap it up for us today. I cannot thank each and every one of you enough, and all of our guests as always. We are so fortunate to have you, and so fortunate to be able to do this every day with you. Looking forward to coming back and doing it again tomorrow. Appreciate you guys. Until then, I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.